Love is not about looking at each other, but about looking together in the same direction. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Imagine a couple in love, exchanging intense glances, living magical moments. But what if I told you that this alone doesn't guarantee lasting love? Think about how many stories started this way and ended on separate paths. What was missing? True love is not just about the enchantment of two gazes meeting, but the harmony of two hearts walking toward the same destination. This quote by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry carries a powerful lesson about relationships and life. Loving is not enough. You must build together. When two people share dreams, values, and goals, love becomes a journey of mutual growth. Without this deep connection, a passionate look can fade over time, and love can slip away like sand through fingers. Now, stop and think. Are you and the person you love looking in the same direction? If not, maybe it's time to understand that true love is not just about being next to someone but walking alongside them toward a shared purpose. And this truth can change everything. In just a moment, you will hear a real and touching story that proves exactly that. The love that defied destiny. The choice that changed everything. It was a cold and rainy night when Gabriel received the worst call of his life. On the other end of the line, a trembling voice announced that fate had played one of its cruel tricks. His wife, Laura, was between life and death. But what would truly devastate Gabriel was not just the possibility of losing her, but the terrible choice he would have to make in just a few hours. How do you make such a cruel decision when you love more than anything? Gabriel and Laura's story had always been marked by challenges. They met during a difficult phase in their lives, both broken in different ways. Gabriel, a man who had lost everything, from his family to his hope, and Laura, a free-spirited woman who hid a past filled with pain. Together, they found a reason to move forward. But destiny always finds a way to test even the strongest loves. That night, Gabriel was about to discover just how far his courage could take him. The couple lived in a small town surrounded by mountains. Laura, a talented painter, brought color to Gabriel's life, a former investor who had gone bankrupt and started over as a teacher. They had a cozy little apartment, decorated with Laura's artwork and memories of the trips they had taken together. The town was peaceful, but that night felt like a nightmare. The phone rang, and Gabriel rushed to the hospital, unaware that the greatest decision of his life awaited him. Upon arriving at the hospital, Gabriel found the doctors with grave expressions. The accident had been brutal. Laura was unconscious, and the tests revealed something even more shocking. She carried a secret. She was pregnant. But there was a problem. The doctors said only one could survive. Gabriel had to choose between saving Laura or the baby. How do you decide when love is at stake? Gabriel's heart pounded. His world was falling apart, and every minute was precious. He looked at Laura, intubated, her skin pale and eyes closed, while the medical team waited for his decision. What if it were you, he thought. What would Laura do in my place? But time was cruel, and he had to decide. Whatever choice he made would change his life forever. Gabriel remembered a conversation with Laura years ago. If I ever have to choose between my life and our child's, please save the baby, she had said. But how could he accept losing the love of his life? Could he break his promise and try to save Laura instead? Or should he honor her wish and let his own heart shatter? The doctors stepped closer, waiting for his answer. Gabriel felt his soul scream. Time seemed to freeze. You need to decide now, the doctor urged. In a moment of pure despair, Gabriel made his choice. But he had no idea that fate still had one more surprise in store. The surgery began, and Gabriel waited in a cold room, his trembling hands clasped together. The hours passed like sharp blades, and then the doctor appeared. I'm sorry, Gabriel, but... The piercing silence that followed made his world go dark. Everything was lost. Or was it? Gabriel fell to his knees, stunned, when he heard a faint cry. A miracle had happened. The baby had survived. But what about Laura? The doctors had no hope. He held the baby's tiny hand, promising never to leave them alone. But then, something unbelievable happened. Laura's heart monitor beeped. She was alive. Months later, Gabriel held Laura's hand as they watched their child sleep. They had defied destiny. Their love proved that when two people look in the same direction, no obstacle is insurmountable. But what about you? What would you have done in Gabriel's place? Would you have chosen differently? Leave your comment and share this story to inspire more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories. To love is to discover our wealth outside ourselves. Emile Auguste Charty. And what if I told you that true love has nothing to do with what you receive, but everything to do with what you give? Think about it. How many times have you searched for someone to complete you, make you happy, or give you security? But what if love was the exact opposite? What if the greatest gift of love wasn't what you gain, but what you discover when you step outside yourself? This quote by Emile Auguste Chartier teaches us something powerful. True love is not a mirror but a window. When we truly love, we don't just focus on our own needs. We see beyond ourselves. We discover immeasurable wealth outside our own world. In the happiness of another, in the sparkle of a gaze, in the peace of a heart beating in sync with ours. Love is growth, surrender, and the courage to step beyond our own ego to find treasures where we once saw nothing. Without this discovery, love becomes nothing more than a fleeting illusion, a reflection of our own emptiness. But when we understand that to love is to discover the wealth that exists beyond ourselves, everything changes. And now, let me ask you, have you ever experienced a love like this? If not, get ready. In the next few moments, you will hear a real and deeply moving story that proves exactly that. The wealth that no one sees. How love revealed the greatest transformation of my life. Imagine for a moment that you are at rock bottom. You have lost everything you had and feel completely empty. Your life seems to have no purpose anymore. But what if I told you that a simple encounter could turn everything upside down? What if, in a moment of total despair, you discovered that what you were searching for the most wasn't in material possessions, but in something far more powerful? Something so simple yet so profound that it would change your destiny forever? Now, imagine that this encounter happens, but you must make a decision that will challenge everything you believe to be true about life and love. Ready to discover how love can be the key to your true wealth? Pedro was a man everyone envied. A successful businessman, money in the bank, luxury cars, and a life of appearances. But despite all of this, there was something inside him that was broken. A void, an anguish that no success seemed to fill. He believed that love was just an exchange. Something you give to receive in return. However, his life took an unexpected turn when a wrong choice, a betrayal, and bankruptcy pushed him into the abyss. What he didn't know was that, at this moment of total downfall, he would meet Clara, a simple woman, but with an immense power of transformation. And so, Pedro would learn that true wealth is not something one can see but something one discovers within themselves, through others. Pedro walked the streets, a defeated man. The city he once dominated now seemed like a labyrinth, full of memories of a past that no longer existed. His friends had distanced themselves, his business was collapsing, and he found himself lost, directionless. Until one cold afternoon, he entered a shelter, unaware of what awaited him. That was where he met Clara. She wasn't rich, she didn't wear expensive clothes, nor did she have a life of luxury. But her eyes? Her eyes radiated a deep and mysterious peace. Clara dedicated her life to helping others, those whom no one else cared about. In a simple encounter, she revealed something to Pedro that would change his life in an unimaginable way. Love, Pedro, is discovering true wealth outside of ourselves. Like a reverberating sound, those words echoed in his mind. Pedro was skeptical. How could someone who had nothing speak about wealth? He, who had lost everything, couldn't understand how those words made sense. Yet, he couldn't ignore what he was feeling. What Clara said made more sense each day, and her actions, simple but profound, began to stir something in him in an inexplicable way. He started following her work at the shelter, helping people like him, who once thought they were superior. But the biggest shock was yet to come. Clara had something he never imagined, a terminal illness, something she had never let show but was slowly consuming her. Pedro found himself facing a choice that would test everything he believed about life, love, and the meaning of true wealth. As Clara grew weaker with each passing day, Pedro could no longer ignore the impact she was having on his life. He found himself transformed. For the first time, he was dedicating himself to something without expecting anything in return, and that made him feel more complete than he had ever imagined. But at the same time, the news of Clara's illness devastated him. How could he handle this? He was learning to love in a way he had never known before, and just now, he had to face the loss of someone who had changed his life. The tension mounted, as Pedro knew that time was against him. What would he do with the love he had found, knowing it wouldn't last forever? With time running out, Pedro was forced to act. He used his experience as a businessman to rebuild the shelter. He started raising funds, bringing in more volunteers, making Clara's mission a greater cause. And as he dedicated himself wholeheartedly, something surprising happened. He began to see in his own eyes the reflection of what Clara had taught him. True wealth was in the ability to change lives, to do something for someone without expecting anything in return. However, a new obstacle arose. Clara, already weakened, insisted that he move forward, even if she wouldn't be there to see the impact. She had prepared him for the greatest test of all, to leave his mark on the world, not through fame or fortune, but through love. On a dark night, Pedro faced a decision that would change his life. He knew Clara was dying, but he also knew that by leaving the shelter in the hands of others, he would be fulfilling her legacy. But could he move on without her? The decisive moment came when Clara, with the last remnants of strength, looked into his eyes and said, "Do not hold on to what you lost. Use what you have learned. The love you discovered here is the greatest gift you can offer the world." It was now or never. The shelter was on the brink of closing. Clara's last breath echoed in Pedro's heart. He didn't know if he could carry this pain, but he also knew that the pain would be temporary, while the love and impact he would create would last forever. Time was against him, but he could no longer look back. The decision was made, and Pedro was ready to act, honoring Clara's memory with every step he took. But what he didn't know was that the greatest challenge was yet to come. The true meaning of love and wealth would only be revealed when he faced the reality of his own heart. At the peak of the story, Pedro managed to transform the shelter into a support center that helped thousands of people. But the greatest impact of all wasn't in statistics, numbers, or external achievements. The greatest impact was in the hearts of the people he touched. He finally understood the true meaning of wealth. It wasn't in what he possessed but in what he could offer others. He was no longer the man who only cared about himself. He was now a man driven by love, transformation, and real change. Years later, Pedro stood before a group of young people. He looked at them and smiled. "To love is to discover our true wealth outside of ourselves," he said, with a sparkle in his eyes. He finally understood what Clara meant. Love isn't about what we receive but about what we give. True wealth is in how we impact the world around us. And as he looked at those young people, Pedro knew he had fulfilled his mission. He had found life's greatest gift, the ability to transform himself and the world, all through love. And you? Have you ever stopped to think about where your true wealth lies? What do you have to offer the world? If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who also needs to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment about the moment that moved you the most. Your participation is essential for us to continue spreading stories of love, transformation, and overcoming challenges. To love is to admire with the heart. To admire is to love with the brain. The profound meaning of Théophile Gautier. Have you ever thought that love goes beyond emotions? What if I told you that it's also a connection between the mind and the heart? To love is to admire with the heart. To admire is to love with the brain. Words by Théophile Gautier that could transform your view of love. Imagine that love is not just a feeling, but a deep understanding, an admiration that starts in both the heart and the mind. What if the true love requires not only passion but also respect and understanding? Often we confuse love with something fleeting. But true love is the one that combines reason and emotion, that allows us to admire and love deeply and lastingly. What if I told you that there's a story that shows this kind of transformative love? Stay tuned, because soon you will get to know a real and emotional story, where love goes far beyond expectations and teaches that loving is the perfect blend of heart and mind. What if it was you living this? The love that transforms. How the brain and the heart unite to change lives. What if I told you that everything you knew about love could be wrong? What if true love wasn't just about what you feel in your heart, but also about what you think in your mind? How would your life change if you understood that loving truly requires more than just passion and emotion? Get ready to learn a story that will challenge everything you knew about love, about what can change your life, and how the balance between the heart and the brain might be the key to everything. This story will stir your emotions in ways you never imagined. When we talk about love, we usually think of something instantaneous, something magical that happens without warning, something you feel deeply that makes the world seem to stop. But what if I told you that true love goes beyond just feeling? It requires a connection between the mind and the heart, something that will transform how you view relationships, and even how you see life itself. Maria, an ordinary woman with a past full of romantic disillusionments, is about to discover that love is much more complex and deep than she ever imagined. And Raphael, a strategic and calculating man, has something to teach Maria, but will he succeed? Maria always believed that love was something spontaneous, something that came from the heart without needing further explanation. She grew up believing in stories of perfect love, passionate hearts, and always threw herself in wholeheartedly. But her love story with Raphael starts differently. Raphael, an intelligent and rational man, sees love in a more logical way. He believes that love is not just about emotion, but also about choice and commitment. When the two meet, their ideas about love clash. How can two such different worlds coexist and find harmony? Maria and Raphael have much to learn from each other, and this journey will take them on a path of discoveries, revelations, and great challenges. Their relationship begins to turn into a game of adaptation, where the mind and the heart fight for control. Will Maria's passion be able to break through Raphael's barriers? Or will Raphael's logic push her away from her deepest feelings? A deep conversation reveals that they both have more in common than they thought, but they also have fears and insecurities that prevent them from fully opening up. Maria, with her heart open, begins to realize that she needs to balance her emotions with reason. Raphael, on the other hand, starts questioning whether love can really be just a rational choice, without room for the heat of passion. The conflict is set, and the differences start to seem insurmountable. As their relationship deepens, greater obstacles arise. Maria begins to feel lost because the love she idealized does not match the reality. Raphael, in turn, finds himself increasingly challenged by Maria's emotional surrender. Will the two find a point of balance? Or is their love doomed to failure? The tension between them grows, and although affection still exists, their insecurities and internal conflicts begin to take over. The fear of the unknown and the difference in expectations pull them further apart each day. The story takes an unexpected turn when both face a decisive moment. What if the secret to saving love was not just in what they feel, but in what they think? Maria decides to step back and try to understand Raphael more deeply. She begins to observe how he handles his feelings, how he reflects before acting. Raphael, in turn, tries to surrender more to Maria's emotions, attempting to feel what she feels. The trial and error lead them to a transformative discovery. True love needs harmony between what the heart desires and what the mind chooses. They realize that without balance between these two aspects, love cannot be whole. Maria decides to give the relationship one last chance, but with one condition. If she and Raphael cannot find a way to truly connect, to balance reason and emotion, it will be the end. Raphael, in turn, realizes he needs to open up more, set aside his excessive rationality, and trust the power of emotion. They meet at a moment of vulnerability, where their defenses fall, and the barriers between them begin to disappear. Is it too late? Or have they finally found the key to true love? The atmosphere between them becomes unbearable when, at the peak of the conflict, an unexpected revelation arises. Raphael, who has always been so rational, finally understands that love cannot be controlled only by the mind. He surrenders to what he feels, allowing himself to be vulnerable. Maria, in turn, understands that love is not just about blindly following the heart, but also about making conscious choices, so that both can love each other with greater depth and clarity. The moment is tense, filled with emotion, and they find themselves at a turning point. Can they really merge these two forces harmoniously? On a quiet night, when all fears and insecurities are finally confronted, Maria and Raphael look at each other and find the true essence of love, the union between the mind and the heart. They become stronger, more complete, and more committed to each other. The transformation is real, and they finally understand that loving is not a simple emotion, but a choice that must be made with courage, wisdom, and dedication. Maria and Raphael's story teaches us that true love is not about blindly surrendering to feelings or trying to control everything with reason. True love is about finding balance, harmony between what the heart desires and what the mind chooses. And in the end, true love is the one that challenges us to grow, to evolve, and to become better versions of ourselves. Now, I ask you, are you willing to love with both your heart and your mind? If you were in their place, would you make the same decisions as Maria and Raphael? What would you do in their shoes? Now, if this story touched your heart and you believe you can learn more about how love transforms lives, subscribe to the channel, like, and share it with someone who also needs this reflection. Don't forget to follow us, because there's so much more to explore about love, life, and how we can be better every day. The true meaning of love. Michelle Coist. What if everything you believed about love was wrong? What if the secret to a fulfilling relationship wasn't about finding someone to complete you, but rather offering the best of yourself to transform someone else's life? Think about it. Many people search for love as if it were a missing piece, someone to fill their emptiness. But is true love really about seeking in another what we lack? Or is love a gift? Something we give without expecting anything in return? Michelle Coist teaches us that love is not about possessing another to feel whole, but rather about giving ourselves fully, sharing our strengths and light so that the other person can grow as well. And now, imagine a deeply moving story that proves exactly that. A story that may change your perspective on love forever. But first, tell me in the comments, what does love mean to you? The love no one told you about. An unbelievable story. What if everything you thought you knew about love was wrong? What if the key to happiness wasn't about finding someone to complete you, but about becoming whole so you can share? Get ready for a story of love, loss, and redemption that will challenge everything you've ever heard about the true meaning of love. Lucas stared at the wedding dress hanging in the closet. The wedding was supposed to happen in a month, but his fiancée, Helena, was gone. No warning, no note. She had simply vanished. Devastated, he searched for answers, but all he found were doubts. What had made her leave? What had he done wrong? He always believed love meant never letting go. But maybe he had it all wrong. Lucas and Helena seemed like the perfect couple. They met in college, dreamed together, and built a solid future. But there was something Lucas never noticed. In his desire to keep her close, he was suffocating Helena, turning love into possession. Every decision they made, every step they took, had to go through him. Love had become a golden cage, and Helena felt more distant with each passing day. Lucas was a confident and determined man, but his greatest weakness was his fear of loneliness. He wanted to protect Helena at all costs, without realizing that true love requires freedom. Meanwhile, Helena, always a dreamer and fiercely independent, longed for a partner who supported her, not one who controlled her. The story unfolds in a bustling city, where the gray days reflected the storm raging inside Lucas after Helena's departure. Desperate, Lucas began searching for Helena. He scoured social media, visited all their favorite places, and talked to friends and family. Then he found a clue: a bus ticket purchased for a small seaside village. Without hesitation, he set out on his journey, unaware that he was about to learn the greatest lesson of his life. When he arrived in the village, he found Helena sitting on a bench, gazing at the ocean. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held the certainty of someone who had made a difficult decision. Before Lucas could say anything, she spoke. "Do you think you love me, Lucas? Then why have you never asked what I truly want?" Her words hit him like a shockwave. For the first time, Lucas realized that his love had been filled with selfishness, fear, and control. Helena explained that she hadn't left because she stopped loving him, but because she wanted a love that was real, free, and reciprocal. She wanted to feel whole beside him, not just a fragment of a relationship. Lucas felt his heart tighten. He finally understood. If he truly loved Helena, he had to let her be who she was, even if that meant letting her go. Lucas faced a painful choice. He could beg Helena to come back, keep trying to convince her they could be happy together, or he could do something he had never done before: respect her decision. With tears in his eyes, he held Helena's hands and said, "I always thought love was about having someone to fill what was missing in us. But now I see it's about being whole within ourselves and then choosing to share that wholeness." Silence lingered between them. Helena saw something different in Lucas's eyes. He finally understood. Without another word, she stood up and, for the first time in a long time, smiled. "Maybe one day, we'll meet again, Lucas. When we're ready for a love that doesn't imprison but sets us free." Lucas returned home with a broken heart but a newfound understanding. Months passed, and for the first time, he started living for himself. He went to therapy, rediscovered his passions, and learned to enjoy his own company. Until one day, in a small cafe, he heard a familiar laugh. Helena was there. Their eyes met, and in that moment, they knew. They were ready for a new beginning. A different beginning. True love does not imprison. It sets you free. It's not about finding someone to fill your voids, but about sharing your wholeness. What do you think? Have you ever experienced a love like this? If this story touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Love is being vulnerable. C.S. Lewis. What if I told you that love is actually about giving yourself completely, without reservations, without fear? Imagine that, in order to be truly happy, you had to allow yourself to be vulnerable? I know, it may seem scary, but the true strength of love lies precisely in its fragility. Trust, affection, and care are only genuine when you allow yourself to be who you really are, without masks. Love is not about control. It's not about possession. It's about opening yourself to the other, even knowing there is a risk of pain. C.S. Lewis was right. Love is being vulnerable. The true beauty of love lies not in certainties, but in the courage to give yourself, to live in the moment, to be transparent with your heart. When you expose yourself, when you surrender, you become strong in a way you never imagined. It is in this vulnerability that we find true connection. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe you have closed yourself off, afraid of being hurt? What if it's time to allow yourself to live a love that transforms you, that leads you to new paths? It doesn't matter how much you have been hurt before. Real love calls you to this surrender. It makes you grow. It frees you from the chains of fear. It's not easy, but it's when you open up that the greatest discoveries happen. Soon, I will tell you a story that will show the power of vulnerability in love. A story that will stir your emotions and make you reflect on everything you have lived and what you can still experience. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss the next chapter of this journey. Love is being vulnerable. The strength of surrender. What if I told you that love is not about being perfect, but about surrendering without reservations? Imagine being able to give everything of yourself, without fear, without hesitation. What if, to find true happiness, you needed to allow yourself to be vulnerable, even knowing the risks? C.S. Lewis said, "Love is being vulnerable." But do you have the courage to live this love? We all seek security in love, we seek control, but what if the true strength of love lies precisely in surrender? Imagine a love where there are no masks, where trust is real, and vulnerability is the key to a deep bond. C.S. Lewis was right. The true beauty of love lies in the courage to surrender completely, without fear, without reservations. In a world where everyone tries to protect themselves from feelings, Maria and João met in a moment of pain. Both carried wounds from the past, but fate brought them together in a way that would challenge everything they believed about love. Their encounter would not only be the beginning of a story, but a lesson about what it means to love truly. And most importantly, about what it means to open up. Maria, with her heart armored by disappointments, avoided surrendering completely. João, on the other hand, was transparent, unafraid to show his vulnerability. The big question was, how could she trust love again? João challenged her, not with words, but with his own example. He invited her to live a unique experience, to be vulnerable, to allow herself to feel without the barriers that protected her. With each moment of closeness, Maria felt the temptation to close up again, to protect herself. The fear of suffering was stronger than the desire to love. But João, with his sincere gaze and courage, made her question everything she knew about love. Being vulnerable didn't mean weakness. Deep down, she knew her greatest strength was in allowing herself. But doubt was still there. Would she be able to take that step? Time passed, and Maria gradually began to realize that her greatest resistance wasn't the fear of love but the fear of losing herself in another person. However, João surprised her. He didn't want to possess her, he just wanted to share his life with her. This small gesture, this shift in perspective, made her start to open up to vulnerability in a way she had never imagined. Their love was transforming, and Maria was finally ready to surrender. On the night Maria feared the most, the unexpected happened. João, with his open and vulnerable heart, made a difficult choice. He stepped away. Not because he didn't love her, but because he knew she needed to learn to surrender on her own. It was in that moment of pain and separation that Maria finally understood. Vulnerability was not a weakness, it was the only way to find true freedom in love. Maria found herself alone, but now, instead of feeling lost, she felt stronger. The pain of separation began to be replaced by a sense of growth. She knew she needed to give herself a second chance, not to the love she feared, but to her own ability to love with vulnerability. What she didn't know was that the real transformation was about to happen, and the reunion with Joao would mark the beginning of this journey of self-discovery. Months later, fate reunited Maria and Joao again. But now, things were different. She no longer sought him to heal her wounds but to share the strength she had found within herself. They loved each other, but no longer with the fear of loss. They surrendered to love without reservations, without expectations, only with the trust that, by showing their vulnerability, they would find the strength that only true love can provide. Maria and Joao's story teaches us that true love doesn't demand perfection. It demands courage. The courage to be vulnerable, to expose yourself without fear. It is there in fragility that we find the true connection, the true strength. When you surrender, even in fear, that is when love happens most deeply. And what if, instead of protecting yourself, you allowed yourself to be vulnerable? What would you discover about yourself and about love? And if it were you? What would you do when faced with the opportunity to love with courage and vulnerability? Share your story in the comments. What does love mean to you? Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay with us. There is much more to discover about how love can transform our lives. Let's go together on this journey.
20 love quotes that inspire words that touch the heart and light the way to deeper connections and a life full of purpose. Don't wait. Click the link now, get your copy, and start the transformation you deserve today. Love is the secret to your new journey.
Love does not dominate, it cultivates. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Have you ever thought about what it really means to love? Love is not possession, not control, not a prison. It does not impose itself, does not demand submission, does not set rules. True love does not suffocate, does not manipulate, does not ask for anything in return. It flourishes in freedom, grows in respect, and strengthens in trust. Those who truly love do not try to change the other, but inspire them to be their best version. When we try to dominate someone, we are not loving. We are fearing. Fear makes us want to hold on, demand, and control. But love is not born from fear. It is born from surrender. It does not scream. It whispers. It does not demand. It offers. It does not imprison. It sets free. And in that freedom it grows stronger. But what if I told you that this phrase hides a story that could completely change your view of love? A story that shows, in practice, what it really means to cultivate rather than dominate. Soon you will find out. When love sets you free. The truth no one tell. Imagine loving someone so much that you lose yourself. What if the person you most want to protect is the one slowly destroying you? At first, it seemed like love, but now it is an invisible prison. Sweet promises turned into chains, and affection turned into fear. Have you ever felt this way? This true story will change your perception of what it means to truly love. Get ready for a truth no one dares to tell. Love should not suffocate, but we often confuse control with care, possession with affection. This is the story of Anna, a woman who believed she was living a fairy tale until she realized it was a nightmare disguised as passion. At first, everything was intense, magical. But little by little, she became a prisoner of an illusion. And when all seemed lost, a shocking truth made her see reality and change her life forever. Anna was a young woman full of dreams, with a smile that could light up any room. Then she met Miguel. He was charming, engaging. He seemed like the perfect man. Their love was intense, a flame burning brightly. But over time, that flame began to consume Anna from the inside. Small, sweet gestures turned into shadows. She no longer laughed as she once did. She no longer had freedom. Her world shrank until she realized she was alone, even with someone by her side. First came the jealousy disguised as care. "I just want to protect you," Miguel would say. Then came the subtle criticisms. "You don't need anyone else. I'm all you have." Anna believed him. After all, love is about caring, isn't it? But soon, she realized her choices were no longer hers. Every step was controlled, every word measured. And then came the fear. What would happen if she tried to leave? Love was supposed to protect her, but hers now felt like a glass cage. Anna tried to justify it. "He's just afraid of losing me." But the truth was different. It was she who was afraid. Friends drifted away. Family became a distant echo. Her dreams were erased, one by one, and whenever she tried to reclaim her voice, Miguel made her feel ungrateful. "After everything I've done for you?" So she remained silent. It was easier that way. But with every silence, with every hidden tear, a part of her died. Until one day, she looked in the mirror and no longer recognized herself. Then something unexpected happened. In a cafe, a stranger looked deep into Anna's eyes and said, "You look like a bird with clipped wings." That hit hard. For the first time, Anna saw the truth reflected in someone else. Love does not imprison. Love cultivates. But how do you escape from a cage you built yourself? The fear was paralyzing, but something inside her awakened. It was time to choose between continuing to fade away or fighting to find herself again. That night, Anna made a decision. She packed her things and left. But Miguel appeared, desperate. He cried, begged, promised to change. He said that without her, he would be nothing. And her heart ached. But a voice inside her screamed, "If you go back, you will never leave again." So with tears in her eyes, she took a step forward. Then another. And she didn't look back. It was the hardest moment of her life, but also the most liberating. Finally, she chose herself. The first days were chaos. The fear of being alone, the guilt for leaving. But with each sunrise, the pain made way for something new. Hope. She rediscovered her voice, her dreams. She found support in people who truly wanted her happiness. Miguel tried to reach out, insisted, promised again. But Anna already knew the truth. True love does not demand captivity, it teaches you to fly. And she was ready to fly far from what had hurt her. Months later, Anna was no longer the same. The sparkle in her eyes had returned. Her laughter, once stifled, now echoed freely. What once seemed impossible was now reality. Looking back, she understood. She never needed to be saved by anyone. True love begins within. And by loving herself, she finally made space for a love that does not hurt, does not suffocate, but instead, flourishes. Many people remain trapped in toxic relationships, mistaking love for possession, care for control. But true love does not suffocate. It inspires. If you relate to this story, remember, you deserve a love that helps you grow, not disappear. Loving yourself is not selfishness. Freeing yourself is not weakness. True love allows the other to shine without dimming your own light. And what about you? Would you have the courage to leave? Do you know someone who needs to hear this message? Share this story and leave a comment. What does true love mean to you? Subscribe for more stories that can change lives. You are not alone. Together, we are stronger.
20 love quotes that inspire words that touch the heart and light the way to deeper connections and a life full of purpose. Don't wait. Click the link now, get your copy, and start the transformation you deserve today. Love is the secret to your new journey.
Loving is finding in the happiness of another your own happiness. Gottfried Leibniz. Gottfried Leibniz left us with a powerful reflection. Loving is finding in the happiness of another your own happiness. But is that really possible? Can someone truly be happy just by seeing another person happy, even without receiving anything in return? Think about the most remarkable moment of your life. Now, imagine that this joy only happened because someone silently sacrificed something for you. True love does not demand, does not charge, does not impose conditions. It is a pure act of giving, a feeling that transforms and teaches us that happiness is not just about receiving, but about giving someone else a reason to smile. But how does this apply in real life? Get ready, because what I'm about to tell you is an unbelievable story based on this quote. A story that will touch your heart and forever change the way you see love. The love that forever changed the fate of a life. Imagine discovering that the greatest happiness in your life was not in what you received, but in what you gave. What if true love was not about what you feel, but about what you do for someone else? The price of true love. Imagine standing before the hardest choice of your life. A sacrifice that would not only change your destiny but another person's forever. What would you do? And what if that decision meant giving up everything you had ever dreamed of? This is the story of a love so powerful that it defied all expectations and redefined the true meaning of happiness. Lucas was a young dreamer, raised in a small town where everyone knew each other. He believed that success would come through hard work and staying focused on his goals. Alice, on the other hand, was a free-spirited artist who saw the beauty of life in the smallest things. They met by chance on an ordinary day, but something inexplicable happened. It was as if time had stopped. The connection between them was intense, something that couldn't be ignored. Despite being opposites, Lucas and Alice fell madly in love. But destiny would not make their path easy. Lucas received a job offer that would change his life, a dream he had pursued since childhood. But there was a problem. It meant moving to another country and leaving Alice behind. She, in turn, had just discovered a devastating secret: a silent illness threatening her life. Neither wanted to stop the other from being happy. But how do you choose between love and the future? Lucas was about to board a plane toward a brilliant future. Alice, unable to tell him about her illness, hid the truth and encouraged him to leave. "Go, chase your dreams," she said with a forced smile. But something inside him made him hesitate. As he held his ticket, one question echoed in his mind. What if he was leaving behind the very reason for his true happiness? At the last moment, Lucas cancelled his trip. He ran to Alice's house, feeling that something was wrong. When he arrived, he found her weak, struggling to stand. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice trembling with emotion. She lowered her eyes. "Because you deserve to be happy, even if it means leaving me behind." But he knew the truth. His happiness could never exist without her. Lucas gave up everything to stay by Alice's side. He spent days and nights holding her hand, helping her through every challenge. The love he felt for her became a shield against fear. "If you fight, I fight with you," he promised. Touched by his dedication, Alice found a strength she never knew she had. The battle against her illness became a journey of love, courage, and hope. Doctors gave her little chance, but something inexplicable happened. Alice began to improve. Small progress turned into major victories. "I could never have done this without you," she whispered to Lucas on a sunny day in the park where they first met. He smiled. "One's happiness is in the happiness of the other. It has always been that way." Months later, Alice was completely healed. The doctors called it a miracle, but Lucas knew the truth. Their love had won. He could have chosen success, but he chose something far greater. "I would trade every dream in the world just to see you smile," he said. And in that moment, he understood the true meaning of love. Alice and Lucas started over. He found a new passion in helping others discover what truly matters in life. Alice went back to painting, telling their journey through colors and shapes. They proved that true love is not measured by what you receive but by what you are willing to give. And in the end, they realized they had achieved something far greater than any dream: the happiness of being together. Now, I ask you, what would you have done in Lucas's place? Would you choose love, or would you follow your dreams? Comment below. If this story moved you, share it with someone special. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more heart-touching stories.
20 love quotes that inspire words that touch the heart and light the way to deeper connections and a life full of purpose. Don't wait. Click the link now, get your copy, and start the transformation you deserve today. Love is the secret to your new journey.
Loving is knowing how to say, "I love you" without speaking. Victor Hugo. What if the purest love didn't need words? Imagine being next to someone and feeling every heartbeat, every glance exchanging silent promises, every gesture filled with a deep love that doesn't need to be spoken. What would it be like to live a love so intense that words became unnecessary? Victor Hugo, with his immortal wisdom, left us one of the most impactful quotes about love. Loving is knowing how to say, "I love you" without speaking. But what does that really mean? Think about the strength of a hug when tears fall, the grip of a hand in the midst of fear, the gaze that shines even in absolute silence. True love doesn't need long speeches. It proves itself in the little details, in actions that speak louder than any words. And what if I told you a real story based on this quote? One that will move you and change the way you see love. Stay with me, because what comes next will touch your soul and shift your perspective forever. The love that needed no words. The unbelievable proof of love that made the world cry. Imagine loving someone so much that you would sacrifice everything without ever saying a word. What if you discovered that the greatest acts of love are silent? And what if, one day, you realized that you had spent a lifetime being loved in a way you never noticed? This is the incredible story of a man who gave everything without ever needing to say, "I love you." When the truth was revealed, the world cried. In a small town, where the streets were quiet and the seasons marked the rhythm of life, lived Lucas, a simple, hard-working man with a serene gaze and deep silence. Since he was young, he carried a secret that few noticed: his love for Helena, the woman who lit up his world. But Lucas never dared to tell her what he felt. He chose to love in a different way, without words, without grand declarations, but through daily gestures that would only be understood much later. Helena was vibrant, full of dreams, with a heart that longed for adventures. Lucas, on the other hand, was the calm in life's storms. While she sought the extraordinary, he made the ordinary something special. They grew up together, shared moments, but Helena never knew the depth of the love that surrounded her. The setting was a small village where everyone knew each other and where simple gestures held great meaning. Time passed, and Helena left town to chase her dreams. Lucas stayed behind. He never stopped her, never questioned her. He just remained there, silently ensuring that everything was fine for her, even from afar. But something unexpected happened. Years later, when Helena returned, she found her house intact, her memories preserved, and then she began to notice small details she had never seen before. An unsent letter, a gift left without a sender, bills paid anonymously. The truth was beginning to emerge. A chill ran down Helena's spine. How had she never noticed? She started piecing things together and realized that, in every moment of her life, Lucas had been present in an invisible way, making sure she never faced difficulties. The love she had searched for in so many places had always been there. Discreet, faithful, unwavering. But why had he never said anything? Why had he never asked for anything in return? Overwhelmed with emotion and guilt, Helena ran to Lucas's house. She found him sitting on the porch, the same serene gaze as always. Why, was all she could ask. Lucas smiled. Because love is not what you say. It's what you do. In that moment, Helena realized that she would never find a love as pure and true as his. But was it too late? Lucas seemed fragile, as if he had carried a weight for years without ever showing it. Helena realized she had spent her life searching for something she had always had. She tried to make up for lost time, but fate had other plans. Lucas was ill, and Helena knew that every moment with him now was precious. In the days that followed, Helena made sure to be by his side, returning with every little gesture, everything he had done without ever asking for anything in return. She held his hand, told him about her adventures, about how, deep down, her heart had always felt that there was something more. But one morning at dawn, Lucas left in silence, the same way he had lived, without asking for anything, without demanding anything, just leaving behind a love so immense that it never needed to be spoken. When Helena read the last letter he wrote, tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. I never needed you to know. Only for you to be happy. The entire town was moved. The man who never said, I love you, had loved more than anyone could ever imagine. And now I ask you, how many acts of love have you received without realizing it? Perhaps true love is not in grand words, but in the small gestures that go unnoticed. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone special. And if you believe that true love still exists, like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will move your soul.
20 love quotes that inspire words that touch the heart and light the way to deeper connections and a life full of purpose. Don't wait. Click the link now, get your copy, and start the transformation you deserve today. Love is the secret to your new journey.
The measure of love is to love without measure. Saint Augustine. What if I told you that true love cannot be measured? Think about it. We live in a world where everything is calculated. Time, money, effort. But what about love? How do you measure something that has no limits? Saint Augustine once said, the measure of love is to love without measure. What if that's the secret to a fulfilling life? When we truly love, we don't set conditions. Real love doesn't expect anything in return, doesn't calculate, doesn't impose barriers. It simply overflows, transforms, and heals. Now, imagine how this phrase changed someone's life. Someone who learned, in the most painful way possible, that true love only exists when you give yourself without reservations. A moving and surprising story that will touch your heart. Want to know how? Then stay with me. The love that defied the impossible. What if everything you believed about love was wrong? Imagine facing a choice that would change your life forever. Loving without guarantees, without security, without expecting anything in return. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But what if I told you that this is the only form of true love? A real story, full of emotion and sacrifice, is about to impact you. Would you have the courage to love like this? Clara was a young doctor passionate about life. Her heart overflowed with hope until an unexpected event put her love to the test. A tragic accident left her fiancé, Gabriel, between life and death. The doctor said that if he survived, he would never be the same again. Friends and family advised Clara to move on. But true love is not measured by what is easy, and she decided to stay. But at what cost? The hospital became her new home. Clara gave up everything to care for Gabriel, who, upon waking up, did not remember her. He was lost, fragile, unable to recognize his own reflection in the mirror. Days turned into endless nights of tears and hope. Friends drifted away, the pressure mounted. How far would you go for someone who doesn't even know who you are? They asked. But Clara believed that love doesn't need logic, only courage. Time passed, and Gabriel began to rebuild himself. Every small progress was a victory but also a reminder that he was no longer the man Clara had once loved. One day, as he watched her from a distance, he wondered, who is this woman who never gives up on me? Clara's heart ached. Would he ever love her again? Or was she just fooling herself with a love that no longer existed? One day, Gabriel held Clara's hand and asked, "Why are you still here?" His words sounded cold, as if he were asking her to let go. But Clara looked deep into his eyes and replied, "Because love is not measured by what we receive, but by what we choose to give." It was the first time Gabriel felt something different. He couldn't explain it, but something inside him was beginning to awaken. The defining moment came when Gabriel, during a therapy session, held a notebook with photos from the past. He saw images of a happy couple, of a woman smiling beside him. Something inside him screamed, a fleeting memory, a feeling of belonging. "I loved you once, didn't I?" Clara simply smiled with teary eyes. "And I never stopped loving you," she answered. Time brought transformation. Gabriel began to reconnect with himself and with Clara. Small gestures, exchanged glances, conversations that seemed to restart a story that had once been lost. Love was no longer based on past memories but on the presence of the present. They were choosing each other again, in a new, unpredictable, yet equally true way. The most awaited day arrived. Gabriel took Clara to the same place where he had once proposed to her. "I may not remember our past, but I know what I feel now. What if I ask you to start over with me?" Clara, with tears in her eyes, replied, "The measure of love is to love without measure. And I never measured my love for you." Clara and Gabriel's story was not about instant miracles but about the strength of a love that endured the greatest trials. Love was not based on memories but on presence, commitment, and surrender. Gabriel did not return to being the man he once was, but he became someone capable of loving Clara in a new way. And that was enough. Now I ask you, how far would you go for love? In a world where everything is disposable, where we seek instant rewards, are we truly ready to love without measure? If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to believe that true love still exists. And subscribe to the channel for more stories that will move your heart.
Discover 20 inspiring quotes, explained in a simple and exciting way to bring more purpose and happiness to your day. Click the link and get your ebook now. A life full of love and inspiration awaits you. Thank you for choosing to transform your journey.
Love is the only thing that grows when it's shared. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Imagine if the true secret of life were shared through something as simple and powerful as love. Think. What if it were you, the person who needs to understand that by sharing love, it multiplies, expands, takes forms you could never imagine? How would your life be if you started giving love without the fear of losing it? Love is the only thing that grows when it's shared. Have you ever stopped to think about the real impact of these words? Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, in all his wisdom, reveals something surprising. Contrary to what many believe, love does not diminish when shared. It blossoms, it strengthens. This isn't just a beautiful idea. It's a truth that can transform your life and your perspective on the world. The incredible secret. How love grows when it's shared. It was an ordinary morning, But something was about to change in Clara's life. Sitting on her porch, she gazed at the sunrise with heavy thoughts. She had always believed that love was given in small doses and that the more you gave, the less there was left for yourself. However, that day would be different. Clara was about to embark on a journey that would lead her to discover something that would change her perspective on love and her own life. What she didn't know was that by learning this secret, she would not only transform her life but also the lives of those around her. Clara was 32 years old and a successful woman. She worked as a marketing manager, had a promising career, a loving husband, and what seemed like a stable life. However, despite having everything that many would consider ideal, she felt an emptiness that nothing seemed to fill. Her days were full of tasks and responsibilities, but her connection with her husband, Raphael, seemed to be cooling. The feeling of being trapped in a routine without excitement grew every day, and she didn't know how to escape this spiral. She tried, unsuccessfully, to find meaning in material things or professional accomplishments, but nothing seemed to heal the emptiness in her chest. One day, while going through some old boxes in the attic, Clara found a diary belonging to her grandmother, a woman with whom she had always had a distant relationship. The diary was full of life notes, but one phrase in particular caught her attention. Love, when given without fear, never fades. It grows, multiplies, and transforms everything around it. Those words, written long ago, seemed so simple yet so powerful. Clara became obsessed with this idea, and it began to echo in her mind, challenging everything she had believed about love. Over the next few days, Clara decided to put into practice what she had read. She started dedicating more of herself to her husband, expecting nothing in return. Instead of demanding attention or recognition, she gave herself to love unconditionally. At the same time, she began extending that love to her friends and co-workers. To her surprise, things started to change. Raphael, who had always been loving, began opening up more, and their connection unexpectedly grew stronger. She reconnected with her sister Julia, a relationship that had always been distant. By starting to give more of herself, Clara realized that, far from losing, she was gaining more. Love did not drain her. It made her feel more alive. But all of this was about to be put to the test. Clara's work was facing financial difficulties, and she found herself in a position where tough decisions had to be made. She was responsible for saving the company, but she also knew that following the path she believed was right could risk her career. The dilemma consumed her. Should she follow her principles or yield to external pressure? Meanwhile, in her personal life, Clara's husband received a job offer in another city. The decision to accept or decline the offer would separate them, placing her at a crossroads. She knew she couldn't lose what she was learning, but could her personal and professional life coexist with this new understanding of love? The tension grew as Clara tried to balance her responsibilities. Raphael, on the one hand, wanted her to make a more rational decision about the future of the company, while she was consumed by the belief that love should be the foundation of her choices. She didn't want to give up her career or her life with him. But what would love require from her? A decision that would change everything was before Clara, and she knew that any choice could affect everyone around her. Then, Clara made a bold choice. She decided to support Raphael in his move, but she would not abandon her convictions. She then made the decision to apply her philosophy of love to her professional life as well. She began getting closer to her colleagues, offering support and sharing her ideas genuinely. To her surprise, the company was saved, and her work was more valued than she had imagined. But more importantly, Clara realized that by sharing her love and energy with others, she had created a true network of support and solidarity. Clara came to the conclusion that love, when given without fear, truly does not fade. On the contrary, it grows, multiplies, and creates a current of positive energy that can transform lives. She discovered that she did not need to give up who she was or what she loved to live a full and meaningful life. On the contrary, the more she gave herself to love, the more her life expanded in surprising ways. Today, Clara looks at her life with gratitude. She knows that the key to true happiness is not in seeking more, but in giving more. In sharing, in giving, in not being afraid to spread what you have, because it is in this act that love multiplies and transforms everything around you. And what about you? What would you do if you knew that love is the most powerful force to change your life and everyone around you? Have you ever thought about how love can transform your life and the people around you? If you believe that the power of sharing love can truly change everything, subscribe to the channel, like, and share the story with someone who needs to hear this message. Let's spread the love.